The evening began like any other gathering, laughter echoing through the room, music humming softly, glasses clinking together. But it didn't take long for me to realize this wouldn't be an ordinary night. Megan, my wife, had seemed distant all week, her attention split between work, social plans, and whatever else occupied her mind. I'd hoped tonight would bring us closer again. Instead, as soon as we arrived, she leaned toward me with a half smile and whispered, "Honestly, I'd probably have more fun if I came alone." At first, I thought she was teasing, her usual sarcastic playfulness. But the tone in her voice told another story. There was a sharpness there, a deliberate dismissal. It wasn't humor, it was rejection, a quiet signal that she didn't really want me by her side, that my presence didn't add much to her night. It stung, but I stayed calm. I told myself to observe, to let things unfold before reacting. Megan had always loved social events. She thrived on energy, attention, laughter, the magnetic pull of being admired. I'd never stood in her way. But hearing her say she'd have more fun without me, that wasn't jealousy stirring inside me. It was disappointment, a crack in the foundation of respect that every relationship depends on. Still, I smiled, made small talk, and carried myself as if nothing was wrong. Meanwhile, she drifted effortlessly from one group to another, charming, laughing, basking in the spotlight as though she were on stage and I wasn't even part of the scene. Part of me wanted to pull her aside and demand an explanation, but I knew better. Confronting her here would only turn the moment ugly. Sometimes silence and patience reveal more than arguments ever could. As the night went on, Megan grew bolder. She made offhand comments about how freeing it felt to go out without me. She laughed a little too easily at jokes she'd normally ignore. She even hinted that she might leave early to meet up with friends elsewhere. It wasn't just distance anymore, it was defiance. And I began to wonder how far she'd go before realizing what she was risking. Near the end of the night, I decided to respond, not with anger or humiliation, but with calm precision. I walked up to her with an easy smile and said quietly, "If you think you'd enjoy yourself more alone, maybe I'll give you the chance to do just that." The look on her face shifted instantly. Surprise, confusion, and something else, maybe fear. She hadn't expected me to take her seriously. She'd meant it as a jab, not an invitation. But I wasn't joking. For a brief moment, Megan froze. That confident, carefree smirk disappeared, replaced by uncertainty. The dynamic between us shifted, and she felt it. Her self-assured posture faltered, realizing I wasn't playing along this time. I didn't argue or raise my voice. I simply stepped aside, mingled with a few friends, and carried on like nothing had happened. My demeanor was calm, my distance deliberate. From across the room, I could feel her discomfort growing. Her laughter started to sound forced. The easy charm she wore so confidently earlier now seemed strained. She kept glancing my way, as if searching for the reassurance she'd taken for granted. The power in the room had quietly shifted, and everyone, especially Megan, could sense it. As the night stretched on, she started making small attempts to pull me back in, brushing my arm when she passed, leaning closer when she spoke, trying to engage me in conversation. I responded kindly, but without offering the instant validation she was looking for. Her gestures grew more deliberate, her tone softer, but I stayed measured. This wasn't about punishment. It was about letting her see the quiet consequence of her own words. Later, when she mentioned stepping outside with a few friends, I simply smiled and said, "Go ahead. I'll be right here when you're done." That line hit her harder than I expected. She paused, searching my expression, realizing I meant it. She wasn't being followed or watched. For once, she had exactly what she claimed to want, space. And that space became her mirror. The rest of the night unfolded differently. The once effortless laughter now carried reflection. The bold, flirtatious energy faded into something more careful, more aware. She seemed to finally understand that her words had weight, that even playful dismissals can leave a lasting mark. By the time the party began to wind down, her demeanor had completely changed. She was quieter, more thoughtful. When she spoke to me, her tone held a kind of sincerity I hadn't heard all evening. I hadn't embarrassed her. I hadn't shouted or made a scene. I'd simply let her experience the impact of her own choices. That was enough. It wasn't anger that taught her that night. It was consequence. Simple, quiet consequence. When the last guest left and the music faded, the house fell silent. I approached her calmly. Tonight wasn't about control. I told her it was about understanding. Words matter, especially when they come from the person closest to you. She nodded slowly, meeting my eyes. There was no defense this time, no playful grin, just quiet recognition, the kind that only comes when the truth hits deep. Over the next few days, I noticed small but unmistakable changes. Megan was more thoughtful in her words, more present when she spoke. She didn't use teasing as a weapon anymore. Her laughter felt genuine again, shared, not performed. That party, what started as an offhand comment about having more fun alone, became a turning point. Not through conflict, not through anger, but through awareness, through the silent understanding that respect isn't optional. We both walked away from that night changed, her with humility, me with quiet clarity. And together, we learned that sometimes the most powerful lessons don't need to be spoken. They simply unfold, naturally, inevitably, when words finally meet their consequences.